Your teenager left one door open for you, not the main door. That one's been locked for a while. The only opening they left looks like a completely ordinary conversation. Most parents walk straight past it because they don't realize that's what it is. The question is, would you know if it happened tonight? 1. The test you didn't know you were taking. Not consciously, not with a clipboard, though if they could have a clipboard, some of them absolutely would. Color-coded, laminated, with a rubric. But at some point between 11 and 14, your teenager brought you something real. A worry, an embarrassment, a thing that actually mattered, and watched what happened next. Not what you said, what you did with it. Did you stay calm or escalate? Did you sit with it or immediately fix it? Did you treat it as information or as an emergency that now belonged to you? Researchers actually looked into exactly when and why teenagers stopped disclosing. Dr. Judith Smetana spent years studying adolescent disclosure and found that teens don't randomly become secretive. Disclosure drops sharply after a specific type of parental response, one that made them feel judged, dismissed, or that the information would be used against them. Not a bad parent, not a fight. One response that landed wrong. They logged it, filed it under. Bringing this here costs more than it returns. And here's the part that catches most parents off guard. The test wasn't a big moment. It wasn't a fight. It wasn't even a conversation, you remember. That's exactly what makes it so hard to find. 2. The moment they filed you under unsafe. Here's what most parents assume. Their teenager stopped talking because they're a teenager. Here's what actually happened. One specific moment reclassified you. Not as someone deficient, as someone who's unsafe for a particular category of conversation. Attachment researchers describe this as a working model update. The internal map a child holds of whether their attachment figure can be relied upon shifts after a significant enough experience. One moment is enough. The update is automatic. No notification, no appeals process, just a quiet reclassification that runs in the background from that point on. Maybe you gave them the solution when they needed you to stay in the problem with them. The conversational equivalent of ordering a salad and being handed a self-help book. Technically food, completely missing the point. Maybe one overreaction to something small became the reason they decided the bigger things weren't safe to bring anywhere near you. You probably don't remember the moment. They do. They could timestamp it. They could tell you what you were wearing. They have replayed it more times than you'd believe. They didn't stop needing you. They stopped believing bringing it here was worth the cost. Filed under, I'll figure this out with someone who doesn't spiral. And somewhere between that moment and this one, fine became the whole vocabulary. But fine isn't silence, it's a verdict. And verdicts can be appealed. And the person who filed it away isn't who you think it was. 3. Why the door isn't about you and why that makes it harder. The closed door isn't permanent, it isn't personal, and it isn't about you as a parent. It's about one specific category of conversation that got marked as unsafe. Everything else is still available. The practical questions still come to you. The logistics, the permissions, the things that don't require them to be vulnerable. Basically, everything that could be handled by a reasonably competent family assistant who didn't apply for the job. And then there's the other door. The door that closed was the one that required them to hand you something real and trust you not to drop it. Think of it as the emotional equivalent of a read receipt with no reply. The message was received. A decision was made. They're just not sending the response to you anymore, which means somewhere, someone else is getting it. That someone probably doesn't even know they've been promoted. They're just a friend who happened to pick up the phone at the right moment moment and are now accidentally running the entire emotional support operation out of their bedroom at 11 p.m. on a school night, while also having a math test tomorrow. And the gap between those two people is wider than most parents have ever had to think about. But here's what nobody tells you about that gap. Someone is filling it, and your teenager chose them very specifically. 4. Who's getting the version you're not? Your teenager didn't stop having someone to talk to. They found a replacement confidant. Someone is getting the unedited version, the full story with the feeling still attached, the version with the pauses in it, the version where they say the thing they almost didn't say. Someone's been promoted to primary confidant, and they're absolutely not ready, but they're doing their best. It might be a friend. It might be a friend's older sibling who seems impossibly wise at 22 and will seem considerably less wise at 35. It might be a teacher who asked the right question once, and became the person they walk toward after something hard happens. Researchers looked into this because apparently scientists also have teenagers. A 2019 study in the Journal of Adolescence found that adolescents who rated parental responsiveness as low showed significantly higher disclosure to peers, not because they trusted peers more in absolute terms, but because peers had a lower cost-to-benefit ratio for disclosure. Your teenager isn't broken. They're rational. They went where the response was safer, and they found it, just not with you. But here's the part that most parents miss entirely. They didn't fully close the door. They left something open deliberately. 5. The thing they did that most parents never notice. Some teenagers monitor the situation with the focus of a chess grandmaster who also happens to be 13 and is doing this entirely unconsciously, waiting, watching, filing every response, looking for the moment the footage changes. Every teenager who stopped bringing you the real version still has something they haven't locked away. There's a topic, a circumstance, a version of you they will still talk to. They didn't build a wall. They built a door with a very specific lock, and they kept one side unlatched, which for a 13-year-old is basically the same as deciding to become a monk. Technically closed off from the world, still quietly hoping someone knocks. Maybe they'll tell you about something that happened to someone else before they tell you it happened to them. A trial run with just enough distance to feel safe. Maybe they bring you the practical version of a problem while keeping the emotional version somewhere else entirely. Maybe they test the water with something small and wait. The door is almost always in the most ordinary place. In the car, where eye contact isn't required. At a time of day when neither of you has anywhere to be. In the middle of talking about something completely unrelated. When they say something that sounds casual but isn't. You'll know when it happens. There's a specific quality to it. A pause before the sentence. A way of looking at something that isn't you while they say it. They left it open because they still want a way back. They just need to know it's safe to use it. Your teenager already knows which version of you shows up when things get hard. They filed it. They've been waiting, sometimes for years, to find out if the file is still accurate. The door isn't locked forever. It's just been a while since anyone knocked it in a way that made them want to answer. And finding it doesn't require a difficult conversation. It requires something smaller and more specific than most parents expect. 6. The response that updates the file. It doesn't start with a sit-down conversation. It doesn't start with, "I've noticed you've seemed distant lately." That sentence closes more doors than it opens. It's the parenting equivalent of showing up to a baseball game with a golf club. Everyone can see you're trying. Nobody knows what you think you're doing. It doesn't start with a podcast you listen to or a book you read or an announcement that you've been working on yourself, delivered with the energy of someone who just completed a parenting seminar and has 17 action items. It starts with one response that lands differently than the last one they remember. They mention something small, a frustration, an awkward moment, something that almost doesn't count. And instead of fixing it, escalating it, or making it about what it means for their future, You just stay in a room with it. That sounds hard. Period. Not, here's what you should do. Not, that's nothing. Wait until you're older. Not, who did this? Give me a name and a zip code. Just, that sounds hard. And then you stay. You don't fill the silence. You don't follow up with 7 questions. You just stay in the room with what they said and let it be what it is. The reclassification runs in reverse. The working model updates again, slowly, on evidence. Your teenager isn't withholding because they don't need you. They're withholding because they need a version of you they haven't seen yet. The version that can hear the real thing without making it worse. You don't announce the update. You don't say, I'm going to respond differently from now on. You just respond differently once, and they notice. They always notice. They've been watching for it. One different response. That's the update. And then one day, it might be in the car. It might be at 11 at night when they appear in the kitchen for a glass of water and then don't leave. It might be in the middle of a conversation about something completely unrelated. They'll say something real. Not because the door is suddenly wide open, because you knocked differently and they decided to see what would happen next. If this landed, watch why teens stop trusting their parents next. 1.4 million views in a comment section that'll make you want to sit very still.